years, the world gathers, flags wave, crowds roar, history is made. But history is never just what you see on the screen.
It's June 2022. A journalist is sitting in a tiny apartment in Doha, Qatar. Outside, it's 110 degrees, and somewhere nearby, a construction worker just died. Not from an accident, not from some freak event. He just collapsed. And his body was quietly shipped back home. No investigation, no headline, no fuss. Because there was a World Cup to build. And here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud: that worker wasn't alone. Thousands like him built those stadiums, and the world showed up anyway, cheered anyway, and forgot anyway. So today, we're pulling back the curtain, because the World Cup isn't just a football tournament. Let's go back to 2010. Zurich, Switzerland, FIFA headquarters. A vote is happening, a secret vote, to decide who gets to host the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. There are 24 men in that room, and those 24 men are about to make decisions worth billions of dollars. England had a strong bid, great infrastructure, a football-mad nation. The United States had money, massive stadiums, and global reach. But Russia got 2018. And Qatar, a country smaller than Connecticut, with no football culture, no real infrastructure, and summer temperatures so brutal that outdoor sports are genuinely dangerous. Qatar got 2022. Everyone was stunned. And then the investigation started. Over the next few years, the U.S. Department of Justice indicted FIFA officials on charges of racketeering, wire fraud, and bribery. Multiple executives pleaded guilty. Millions of dollars in payments were traced through Swiss bank accounts, shell companies, and offshore transfers across 3 continents. But here's what makes it even messier. It wasn't just about money. It was about power, national power, political power. The kind of power that only comes from putting your country on the biggest stage on earth. We're open. We belong. Political scientists have a name for this. They call it sports washing. And the World Cup is the most powerful sports washing machine ever invented. Russia 2018 is the perfect example. This was 4 years after Russia annexed Crimea. Sanctions were in place. Western governments were furious. The international community was actively trying to isolate Russia. And then 32 nations showed up and played football on Russian soil for a month. Putin walked those stadiums. He stood on the pitch next to Emmanuel Macron. He was photographed celebrating, laughing, hosting. For 30 days, Russia wasn't the pariah of Europe. It was the center of the world. And that is worth more than any sanction can cost. Qatar is an even more fascinating case. Because Qatar isn't just a small country looking for attention. It's a country with a very deliberate, long-term geopolitical strategy. It's tiny. It's surrounded by regional giants: Saudi Arabia, Iran, the UAE. But it's sitting on one of the largest natural gas reserves on the planet. And for 30 years, it's been using that wealth to build global influence. Through Al Jazeera, through investments in London, Paris, New York, through a web of diplomatic relationships most people never see. Hosting the World Cup wasn't a vanity project. It was the final piece of a 30-year plan. But while Qatar was executing that strategy, something else was happening. Workers were dying. Qatar had to build everything from scratch. 8 new stadiums, highways, a metro system, hotels, an entirely new city called Lusail. All of it in roughly a decade. So they went to Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, the Philippines. They promised decent wages, reasonable conditions, and hundreds of thousands of men came. They left their families behind. A lot of them took out loans just to pay the recruitment fees to get the job. They arrived in Qatar believing they were going to change their lives. And for some of them, the reality was nothing like the promise. Passports confiscated, wages delayed or withheld, contracts quietly changed after arrival, and if you tried to leave, under Qatar's kafala system, the legal sponsorship system that governed migrant workers, you needed your employer's permission to quit your job or leave the country. You were legally tied to the person employing you. That's not a figure of speech. That was the law. The Guardian newspaper did one of the most in-depth investigations into this. Their estimate was that over 6,500 migrant workers may have died in Qatar between 2010 and 2020. Qatar disputed that number. Their argument was that most of those deaths weren't directly caused by construction work. But here's the thing about that argument. When a 29-year-old man from Kathmandu drops dead of cardiac arrest after working in 115-degree heat for 12 hours, calling that not work-related isn't a medical conclusion. It's a political and legal choice. And the world knew. Journalists were reporting this for years. Human rights organizations were raising the alarm before a single stadium was finished. FIFA was warned, formally and repeatedly. The response was the bare minimum needed to keep things quiet. A few promised reforms, some carefully worded statements, a report that nobody read. And the tournament went ahead, because it always does. Now let's talk about FIFA itself for a moment, because FIFA might be the strangest organization on the planet. It's technically registered as a non-profit, and yet it generates billions of dollars every 4 years from the World Cup alone. Its former president, Sepp Blatter, ran it for 17 years like a personal empire. He was investigated, charged, and banned from football for 8 years.
Sepp Blatter, one of the most powerful men in sports, was banned from the game of soccer.
I'm really sorry. I'm sorry for the 400 plus FIFA team members, and I'm sorry for football.
Here's a number that tells you everything about FIFA's real power. FIFA has 211 member nations. The United Nations has 193. More members than the UN. Think about what that means. When FIFA holds a vote, it's not just football associations in a room. It's proxies for governments, for foreign policy relationships, for national interests and back-channel deals. When the 2034 World Cup was awarded to Saudi Arabia, the same Saudi Arabia that banned women from attending football matches just a few years ago, the same Saudi Arabia at the center of the Jamal Khashoggi case, you have to ask what conversations happened before that vote. What was offered? What was promised? What was exchanged? We'll likely never fully know. FIFA's votes are secret, and the organization has a remarkable, almost impressive ability to stay just one step ahead of accountability. So where does all of this leave us? Because here's the tension that's hard to sit with. The World Cup genuinely is magical. When Japan beat Germany in Qatar, the whole country went electric. When Morocco reached the semi-finals, the first African team ever to do it.
For the first time in the semi-finals.
Grown men were crying in the streets of Casablanca.
Cristiano Ronaldo is out.
Football does something that almost nothing else can do. It cuts through language, culture, history, politics. For a few weeks, it actually does bring the world together. And that's real. That's not manufactured. But that magic, that genuine, human, beautiful magic, it's being used by governments to clean up their international image. It's being used by an organization that has operated for decades with almost no real accountability. And it's being built, sometimes, on the lives of people who will never sit in one of those seats, never watch a single match, and never have their names mentioned in a single broadcast. The question isn't really whether to watch. The question is whether to watch knowing who actually benefits, knowing what it actually cost, knowing that long before the first ball is kicked, there's a political game happening that most of us never see. That game doesn't have a referee, and it's been going on a lot longer than football has. The beautiful game, and everything wrapped around it that isn't beautiful at all. If this changed how you see it even a little, share it with someone who thinks it's just football. And if you want to go deeper into any of this, the full FIFA corruption story, the Saudi 2034 bid, Qatar's labor reforms and whether they actually changed anything, drop it in the comments. We'll go there next. See you in the next one.